Good evening and welcome to the South Florida Writers Association's September edition of the Authors Showcase Series, a virtual experience. My name is Beverly Malancey Haig and I am your host for tonight's performance. Before I introduce our featured author, I'd like to share a little about us. We are a 501c3 nonprofit educational and membership organization dedicated to the literary arts and support writers in our community. Our mission is to establish and maintain a forum for fellowship, education, and information among writers in the South Florida area. For more information, please visit our website at southfloridawriters.org. Tonight, the Authors Showcase Series welcomes Sarah Shaw with her new book, Two Sisters and the Four-Leaf Clover. When Sarah was a little girl in a small Midwestern town, she would search for hours in her backyard trying to find a four-leaf clover. She believed it would bring her family good luck. Finally, she found her lucky four-leaf clover, not expecting what was to happen next. Sarah's mother died, and her cousins called to console her. They texted her a picture of the 8 of them together when they were children. It hurt Sarah to know that the two sisters, Elizabeth and Evelyn, had kept their families apart all their lives. But why? Once the cousins connected, speculation began to grow, and about some surprising twists and turns. Whispers of physical and sexual abuse emerged. Once that door opened, stories brought to life a journey that shaped their lives within the dark secrets they kept. Sarah felt a powerful sense of urgency to tell this important story by writing a book that could help her cousins heal. However, when she asked them if they wanted to tell their story to her, she had no idea where their journey was about to take them. As her cousin's narrative unveiled, it was much more painful and devastating than Sarah had ever imagined. She stated, "Imagine for a moment living a life where every single day you desperately prayed for someone to come and save you." And with that, may I present to you Miss Sarah Shaw.
Thank you, Beverly, and hello and thank you for this special opportunity, Books and Books and South Florida Writers Association. Sarah Shaw is my pen name, and the name of the book is Two Sisters and the Four-Leaf Clover, hoping every day that someone would come to help us. Why did I use a pen name, and why did I change the names of the real-life characters in the book? The answer to that is because what happened in real life to my cousins was so shocking, I didn't want friends, neighbors, and others to know. I was protecting all of us. But I can share that this is changing, that since the writing of this book on giving my cousins a voice, it's provided some healing for them. And it is our hope that by telling their story, it will also help others. The book was published in September of 2021 by Trilogy Christian Publishers. And Trilogy is a wholly owned subsidiary of TBN, which is Trinity Broadcasting Network. It's a true story, real life. And where do we begin? We begin with two sisters, Elizabeth and Evelyn. Elizabeth is the older of the two sisters, and this story is told by Sarah, and that's myself, and I am Elizabeth's oldest daughter, and Evelyn's children are my cousins then. The verbal feedback and a lot of the personal reviews that you could go on and read right now on Amazon say that it was extremely hard for people to read this true life story. And that's easy to understand because it was hard to read because of the horrible sexual and physical abuse that my cousin suffered. It was a very hard read. Some people said they couldn't put the book down, and I think it was because they were trying to read through it, thinking that maybe the next chapter it was going to get better. And others said that they had to put the book down and walk away from it, take a break from it because of the overwhelming pain and sadness that they felt. I promise you, it was extremely hard for me to hear and write their story. I was shocked. I was heartbroken because they were crying for help and absolutely no one came to save them. They felt worthless because they felt nobody cared. And later in their life, the few times their father did come, he was threatened and then ran off by the stepfather. Doubters. It's hard to believe, but there are actually a few people I was told who said, "How do you know this is all true?" I was shocked, even hurt by it. I agree, anything is possible, but why would anyone want to lie about things as awful as this? What could anyone possibly gain from it? Pity? We didn't even use our real name, so how could you expect to be pitied? And why would anyone want to submit a manuscript to a Christian publisher filled with untruths? I actually feared the Christian publisher would reject the whole project because the truth was so shocking. But as it turns out, the Christian publisher said there's a lot of horrible, shocking things that go on in our world. And if you turn on the news at night, that's absolutely true. There's also actually more that I could have even written about in the book. So, for any of you who decide to read this book, please take a very long pause afterwards and think about the fact that you're just reading it. They lived it. How hard that must have been living that life day after day. Then think about your own life and what this personally means for you. Oh my gosh, I am now officially a published author. But I knew I was never going to hear those celebrated words that people or authors long for. I loved your book. And I promise you, this is not the book that I had always hoped to write. But it is a book I am now very proud of. I feel very blessed to know and hear that the book has made a positive healing difference in each of my cousins' lives, and it also is blessing other people's lives. So I do feel good about it. Hearing and knowing this book then and sharing has brought forward others who have suffered abuse and share that the courage and strength that my cousins had is helping them with their healing and their self forgiveness. They too want to speak out and they want to stop hiding, feeling the shame, the hate, and the hurting. Many of them suffer from post traumatic stress syndrome, and I hear a lot about others suffering from substance abuse disorder. So it just helps to know that you're not alone. The following are two leading psychologists that put reviews on Amazon. This one is Estee Leon. She says this book is a good read for anyone, but especially counselors and those that work in the mental health field. I found this book to be heartbreaking but enchanting at the same time. It's a true life depiction of how people get through trauma and how they sometimes come out on the other side. I grew up in small town Kentucky, and it breaks my heart to know how adults can see things, hear things, and stay out of it because they feel it isn't their business. People are more likely to take a stance today and help others make changes. I enjoyed the book even through the pain because it depicts a time in my life in childhood and how much things have changed. I recommend this book for others. Grab your Kleenex, but take a moment to learn from the characters about life. And then Dr. Michael Anthony Collar, also a psychologist from Charleston, South Carolina. I am a licensed psychologist, and I firmly believe that this book is a must read for all healthcare professionals, physical or psychological. It is rare that an author can capture the real, true feelings of tragedy and then the triumph that results from undying hope and perseverance. I applaud Sarah Shaw for having the courage to write such an important book that takes all the skeletons out her familial closet. So when I started this book, I really did not know my cousin's story. I had heard some things, but I was absolutely unprepared for what I was about to find out. The individual interviews they each shared, as I've already said, shocked me, but it's worth repeating. That's how shocked I was. It left me saddened, sickened, and depressed, and I wondered what the Christian publisher Trilogy was going to say when I turned in my final manuscript. They had given me a contract to write a book, but that was before I heard my cousin's stories. So at that time, the publisher had only seen an outline of one chapter, and that was about a four-leaf clover. Also, my mother had recently died, and I was heartbroken. I had been cheated out of some money by someone I was working with, and this had happened to me before by others. Untruths were told, and I never seemed to see that coming. I'm too trusting, I guess. But I felt like I was surrounded by evil and enemies, which then threw me back into my own childhood and my childhood feelings of always feeling like I was a bad girl. I never measured up. In the way the mind works, I therefore felt I deserved every bit of this. All the bad things that were happening in my life was all my fault. It was all deserving because, after all, I was a bad girl. I'd heard that often from my dad. So I began to pray, Dear God, please rescue me from all this, protect me from my enemies. I prayed over and over all the Bible verses that were about God's protection. So, a little bit about Trilogy Publishing. When I was in this state of sadness, I happened to walk by the TV in my bedroom. And at the time, TBN Christian Station was on, and Trilogy Christian Publishers had a program about looking for authors. And I was learning that they had published a lot of books for best selling authors. So I started to feel like maybe this was a sign from God. And I started to believe that with my whole heart. And so I decided that I was going to take that leap. I also kind of felt a tugging that I was thinking was coming from my mom and maybe even her sister. But that tugging was telling me that I needed to connect with my cousins because there was an important story that needed to be told. I promise you, I was not ready for what I was about to learn. So I don't know if this is blocking, but this is shameful, ashamed Sarah. I am ashamed to say that the more I learned about the horror my cousins suffered, I started to have a selfish personal emotion. I started feeling ashamed and embarrassed that this horrible sexual and physical abuse was in my family line. What would people think? I didn't want people to know this about me, about my family. They would talk, they would look differently at me. So I struggled with this selfish thinking. I prayed over this and I prayed over it. I knew this was not about me and how I looked. I also knew that the selfish thinking about myself needed to stop. This had everything to do with love and giving my cousins a voice and helping them to heal, to honor our mothers who left this world and to share that they were deeply loved. And we really did understand that they did the very best that they could. It was important for me to show and tell that my cousins were victims, and they shouldn't hide or feel bad. Absolutely no judgment here. They were being brave and they spoke out loud about all of it. Their unselfish reason for doing so was repeated out loud over and over again. They would say, if we can help just one other person, it will be worth it. So I was definitely ashamed, but my own life then began to heal because of them. Stop and imagine for a moment living a life where every single day of your life you were desperately praying and hoping from the time you woke up and then long into the night, begging for someone to come and save you, pleading and begging for help. Some days you just wished you were dead. Again, when I asked my cousins if they wanted to tell their story, I didn't have any idea where the journey would take us. I didn't really know what their lives were like, so I just plain wasn't prepared. But their story has forever changed my life. Their courage far surpassed what I had ever known. In my own life and for my siblings, I thought had been hard, but in comparison, not even close. Deep Dark Secrets. Remember, I used a pen name to protect myself and my cousins. After the book was published and we read our story, the healing immediately began for us. After all the years, mostly for them, of hiding and shame, shaking from the memories day by day, for all of us, the healing began. Soon we could talk out loud, we could hug and feel more special closeness, a more meaningful closeness that really was not there before. And for my critics, this is a message that my publisher sent. You have a beautiful book. I never thought I'd hear the word beautiful book, but that tells a tremendous story, one that can be sold for years to come and will bless many people. Be encouraged. Publishing is a marathon, not always a sprint to success. In his service, Mark. So their prayers, my cousin's prayers and their faith and their belief in God is what got them through. Their devotion to each other continues to be strong. This is a passage that I put in the book, and I just really would like to share that at this time. So, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. In the book, Heben is the stepfather, and page by page, you will grow to hate this man. About the two sisters, Elizabeth and Evelyn, you're going to question their choices. It's going to be hard to understand how they let their children suffer such abuse. They tried, they cried, and many times they failed, and they suffered a whole lot too. In comparison, one sister, Evelyn, and her children, my cousins, they suffered a great deal more, so much more. But what was always still there was their motherly love in spite of everything. The story actually begins in the state of Ohio in a small Midwestern town. So once you read the book, the photographs that follow will become even more meaningful. And if you've already read the book, these photographs will light up your memory and will bring you right back to that chapter. So this is Ohio, and this is the motel where Evelyn worked. So as you can see, there's a house across the street. So she was trying to work third shift to put food on the table for her children. This is the church still standing, and this is where used toys were picked up for Christmas presents and then wrapped and put under the tree. And this is also where the children performed their Christmas plays. This is the wonderful grocer, Mr. S, and his store, and he was awfully kind to many people in the town, but he was also very special to me. This is the school that's still in this small town. And at the time Elizabeth and Evelyn attended, it was a high school. And when myself and my siblings attended, it went only through the sixth grade. This back here is the restaurant as it looks today. And this is where Evelyn first met Heathen. So in the story, the younger sister, Evelyn, then moved her children next to Indiana. So this would be the postcard view from the highway as Nancy looks out the car window. So that's in the book. So this is what she would have seen. This is the restaurant in Indiana. So this is where the kids cooked and served food. And this is the motel in Indiana where they changed beds and cleaned. This is the house. And this is the gas station. And then in the book, there's a fire, a devastating fire. So this is what it looks like after the fire. So then next, Evelyn moves her children again next to the state of Kentucky. So this is the holler. So as you can see, here's a car. This is the water. And over on the other side is where they live. So they can't drive through the water. And this is just a swinging bridge that is only, you're only able to walk on it. So they had to park and then walk across. So this is a closer look at that swinging bridge. And actually, one day the bridge broke, and one of my cousins fell in. This is really heartbreaking, but this is a metal storage shed. So this served as a bedroom for two of my cousins, and there was no running water either. So they washed their hair in the creek, even in the colder winter months, until the house was finally built. The introduction. I would like to read the introduction of my book. I think it shares the real guts of the story, and it also helps to make the material that I've just shared even more clear. So, if you would allow me, it is widely and universally known that the four-leaf clover is a symbol of good luck. This symbol of being special and lucky came about because the four-leaf clover is so rare. You could search in a field full of clover and you would be incredibly lucky and extremely fortunate to find even just one. This incredibly special luck has been associated with what we often hear as the luck of the Irish. The Irish share that there is meaning and symbolism for each leaf. One leaf for faith, the second for hope, the third for love, and the fourth for luck. Upon hearing and believing that this all might be possibly true, one could expect to find hope and feel lucky if lucky enough to find one. The story of the two sisters and the four-leaf clover is about their journey with many years of lost hope and what seemed to be no good luck. It is about their children suffering sexual and physical abuse, a sister's children being taken away and put in foster care, and her fight to get them back. About being poor and sometimes going to bed hungry, a feeling that happiness was something that only other people had. At night, you could hear them crying out, God, where are you? A story of being surrounded at times by such evil and darkness that one would think it would be hard to survive, so you would lose all hope and just give up. Ending your life might be better than waking up every day to repeat the same nightmare day after day. It felt like this was their lot in life, their destiny, their children's destiny, their bad luck. Through all the pain and suffering, God's love was always there. The path was so dark, it took unbelievable strength to finally find God while enduring all the pain. God's love and presence brought hope, love, and encouragement to go on. This story will take you from the home of the two sisters growing up in a small Midwestern town to the mountains of Kentucky. So many roadblocks, so many things to overcome, but life really is what you make of it. The pain, the hurt, and betrayals make you stronger. Mixed with much heartache and pain along the way, there were also celebrations and big accomplishments. There were successes despite the hardships. Accomplishments always felt more powerful because there were many people talking and saying that nothing good would come from any of them. Some referred to the sisters and their children as damaged goods. Kids at school would make fun. Some teachers even labeled them, saying they would never amount to much. Their clothes, where and how they lived, their one pair of shoes, Christmas presents that came from church donations you picked out for yourself, feeling embarrassed, feeling lesser of oneself. Reading this journey will help others to believe for themselves that they too can overcome their past. You can achieve a better life like a lucky four-leaf clover. You need faith in God and a belief that you deserve a better destiny. You are loved by God and you need to love yourself. No one really wants to hear, read, and live through a true life story that gives us only chapters of despair and hopelessness, a sad story. This is not that story. It is a story of hope, courage, and restoration, a story about finding God, having hope, and building a new life out of the rubble. There are lessons within each of these chapters, lessons that tell us to look deep into our own lives and know that if they could overcome all that they did, so can you. You can change your course of life because all things are possible with God. For their children's part, committing some of their stories and memories to paper helps with their ongoing recovery, an everyday push forward to move past the pain, to feel deserving and believe it is possible to be hopeful about the future, to forgive the hurt, and above all, remember they were loved, they are loved, to be proud of themselves for their achievements, courage, and strength. The two sisters kept their families separated for most of their lives. Their children did not understand the why of this. Uncovering some of the possible reasons and motivations continues. Some surprising twists and turns also continue to be uncovered. There were whispers about possible reasons, but it was not until one sister passed away and the other was suffering in a nursing home from Alzheimer's that the children connected, a door was opened, and a light was turned on. 3 boys and 7 girls. Their stories bring to life the journey that has shaped their lives and the dark secrets they kept. So thank you for letting me share that. And then next in the postscript, if I could share this as well. Um, for me personally, this was very powerful. I deeply struggle with people who point fingers and are trying to judge other people to make them look bad. And this was really on my heart at the time that I was writing this book. And I was already depressed from hearing my cousin's story. So this actually gave me a sense of relief to commit this to paper. Also, recently I did an event and I added down in blue then a scripture that I found in the Bible that I thought was important that I wanted to use at that event. So I want to share that with you too. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? So the postscript. Jesus said, "He who is without sin can cast the first stone." Now, what does that mean? Why is this important? This passage tells us that we do not accuse others unless we search our own hearts and minds to make certain we are pure. I grow tired of being around people who are quick to judge others and dig up any possible infraction and past wrong to put someone in a bad light to make themselves look better. It happens at work, it happens at school, it happens at home, sporting events, and everyday life. And there are those that will lie to try and control an outcome. I pray, dear Lord, that for each of us, including those that are reading this page right now, to remember Jesus is the only sinless person. When any of us attempt to make others look bad, judge others, and gossip about their past mistakes, this is seen and noted by God and heard by God. Lord, help us to be better in all that we do and more forgiving of others. Help us to share more about the love of Jesus and not share about other people's past mistakes. Let us pray more and join and work together to make our world a better place. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you. If you would happen to know of a church or an organization that would be interested in hosting a program, please let me know. My website will be at the end of this presentation. Drug and alcohol addictions a lot of times stem from abuse, and also it could just be from hanging around the bad influence of others. And then sometimes addictions can lead to abuse. So it's our hope that by working together, we can reach out to the hurting and share about places that people can turn. So, in closing, I want to say a very warm thank you. I would like to give a big shout out and a thank you to Evelyn Benson for reaching out to me after she read my book. She sent me a personal note suggesting I might want to reach out to domestic shelters and the like to share about this story. I'm very happy to report that I'm currently working with behavioral health facilities, abuse centers, prison ministries, churches, and others. And also, I want to say a very warm thank you to Beverly Malassi Haig. I hope I said that right, Beverly, for her encouragement, her positive attitude, her excellent recommendations, and being most generous with her time to help with this author's showcase production. So thank you to all the viewers and listeners for sharing this time together. Thank you again, South Florida Writers Association and Books and Books. You can find my book on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and all local bookstores. And you can reach me on my website at www.sarahshaw.org. Thank you.